Both the 9/11 Congressional Inquiry and the 9/11 Commission examined the NSA's intercepts of various calls made by the hijackers to an al-Qaeda communications hub in Sana'a, Yemen. The 9/11 Congressional Inquiry refers to several of the calls and gives them an idea of the content of some of them, but it does not mention those made by Nawaf al-Hazmi and possibly other hijackers from the United States after the USS Cole bombing, which are only disclosed later in the media. However, this section of the Congressional Inquiry report is heavily redacted, so most details remain unknown. It states that although the NSA intercepted the calls and disseminated dispatches about some of them, the NSA did not realize the hijackers were in the United States at the time the calls were made. This would turn out not to be true, for both Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi had left the al-Qaeda summit meeting in January of 2000 while being followed by the CIA. The 9/11 Commission report contains a briefer section on the intercepts and deals with those which led to the surveillance of al-Qaeda summit meeting in Malaysia. In addition, mentions that Khalid al-Mihdhar called his wife from San Diego in the spring of 2000, but fails to mention that his wife lived at the al-Qaeda communications hub in Yemen, that the calls were intercepted by the NSA. The Los Angeles Times would comment, quote, "The 9/11 Congressional Inquiry and the September 11th Commission that came after it referred indirectly to the calls from Yemen to San Diego, but neither report discloses what the NSA learned from the calls or why they were never disclosed to the FBI," end quote. The publication of the 9/11 Commission report and revelations about domestic surveillance by the NSA will lead to increased media interest in and revelations about the intercept starting from December of 2004. On October 17, 2002, the NSA's Director Michael Hayden would testify before the 9/11 Congressional Inquiry that the NSA had no indications that al-Qaeda was specifically targeting New York and Washington, or even that it was planning an attack on U.S. soil, Hayden went on to testify. Before 9/11, Hayden claimed that the NSA had no knowledge that any of the attackers were in the United States. Supposedly, a post-9/11 NSA review found no intercepts of calls involving any of the 19 hijackers. Yet, in the summer of 2001, the NSA intercepted communications between Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and hijacker Mohammed Atta when he was in charge of operations in the United States. What was said between the two has not been revealed. The NSA also intercepted multiple phone calls from al-Qaeda leader Abu Zubaydah to the United States in the days before 9/11. But who was called or what was said has never been revealed. In addition, Hayden testified 3 times in secret on June 18th, June 19th, and July 18th. But little is known about what he said, as not much information is disclosed in the media, and many sections of the inquiry's final report about the NSA are heavily redacted. The main revelations at the time of the summer hearings are that the NSA intercepted 2 messages apparently pertaining to the forthcoming attack one day before 9/11, and this sparks a controversial leak inquiry by the FBI. However, according to former senior executive Thomas Drake, the NSA had been wiretapping the house in Yemen daily for many years. we could speculate as to what they heard and what they didn't hear. But I would submit to you that the information will never be known to us unless we pressure the federal government to release those transcripts. According to the Washington Post, the NSA took an overly cautious approach to collecting intelligence in the United States and offered insufficient collaboration with the FBI's efforts. Many sections remain censored, especially an entire chapter detailing possible Saudi support for 9/11. The Bush administration is insisting on censoring even information that was already in the public domain. The inquiry attempted to determine to what extent the president received threat-specific warnings, but received very little information. There was a focus on learning what was in Bush's briefings on August 6, 2001, but the White House refused to release this information, citing executive privilege. The NSA most likely had information, pertinent information, pre-9/11. And according to Thomas Drake, the former senior executive of the NSA, the attacks themselves could have been prevented. The question is, why weren't they?
I want to ask you about a specific incident related to interagency rivalries. Michael Scheuer, who was at the CIA running the bin Laden desk, the ALEC operation named after his son, he reported that at one point he was able to identify the location of a satellite phone that was used to communicate with Osama bin Laden. And it was traced, and Jim Bamford has written about this, it was traced to a safe house in Sana'a, Yemen. And so Scheuer made a request of the NSA, first for a full transcript of intercepts from that satellite phone. And then when he was rebuffed, he was able to get one link of it, either the uplink or the downlink, one side of the conversation. And he said, well, I took that to the NSA and said, well, look, I've already got half of it. Can you just cough up the other half? And he said that they turned him down. Number one, are you able to confirm that? And number two, are there other significant cases of this kind of interagency squabbling that left us, either undefended or just unable to pursue the clear missions assigned?
I'll answer it this way. I live with the dirty knowledge of what could have been, and what could have been is that 9/11 could have been prevented by virtue of what NSA alone knew, should have known, didn't share, or could have known. It's one of the deep, dark chapters in the post-9/11 and pre-9/11 history that is yet to be fully written. The extent to which NSA is culpable and also went into a major cover-up. One of the things that Hayden was quite proud of, and I remember in the executive session, is that he was more than willing to have the FBI and the CIA take the heat while NSA remained in the shadows, away from the prying eyes of the investigators. The NSA did all it could to obstruct the investigation, several investigations. For me, I had the certain knowledge. You spoke of one incident. There's any number of other incidents in terms of pre-9/11 intelligence that was either never shared with national command authorities, to say it that way, or those responsible for, in terms of receiving actual intelligence, indications, warning intelligence, and then doing something with it. NSA bureaucratically had this thing that only they owned it. Whatever they took, they owned, and they didn't trust anybody with, if they gave it to somebody, they didn't know what they would do with it. So they tended to hoard it, and hoarding meant that no one else could see it. So they're very reluctant to share critical intelligence. And I ended up not only as a whistleblower, but a material witness on two 9/11 congressional investigations. in early 2002, and then the joint inquiry that involved both the Senate and the House, the prelude to the 9/11 Commission, I gave them prima facie evidence of what NSA had failed to share, including critical actual intelligence regarding al-Qaeda and associated movements that could have easily rolled up that entire network. All of that was reported to the investigators, and I will tell you that all that information was censored. It was hidden behind state secrets. It was never made part of the final report. Now you tell me,